Voices overlapped in Portuguese and English. Rolling suitcases clicked against polished floors. The smell of strong coffee and warm air drifted through the terminal like a memory that refused to fade. Nothing here had changed, but Christian Hawthorne had. He stepped off the private jet without hesitation, his movements precise, measured. A black suit tailored to perfection clung to his broad frame, the fabric hiding weapons and secrets alike. Men waited a few paces behind him, silent, alert, loyal. They did not speak unless spoken to. They did not question him. Fear and respect had merged long ago into something unbreakable. 3 years. 3 years since he had last stood on Brazilian soil. 3 years since he had walked away from the only life that had ever felt real. To the world, Christian Hawthorne was a myth now. A man whose name traveled faster than his shadow. A mafia boss who ruled through quiet commands and final decisions. He did not shout. He did not threaten. When Christian spoke, people listened because the alternative was unthinkable. But as his shoes touched the familiar ground, something inside his chest shifted, subtle and unwelcome. This place remembered him. The air itself seemed heavier, pressing against him with invisible hands. The sound of a woman laughing somewhere across the terminal made his jaw tighten. For a split second, his body reacted before his mind could stop it. His gaze lifted instinctively, searching. Emily. The name surfaced unbidden, sharp and intimate. Emily Monroe. The woman he had loved before power had demanded everything. Before blood oaths and syndicate wars had carved him into someone colder, harder. She was the only person who had ever looked at him without wanting something. The only one who had touched him without fear or calculation. He shut that door years ago, locked it, buried it. Or so he told himself. Christian adjusted the cuff of his watch, a habit born from discipline rather than vanity. Business. That was why he was here. Brazil was unstable, fractured between rival organizations. Territory needed consolidation. Loyalty needed reinforcement. The syndicate required his presence to remind everyone who still ruled. That was the reason he gave his men, the reason he gave himself. Yet the moment his feet carried him deeper into the terminal, past familiar signs and corridors he once walked beside a woman who laughed easily, regret curled low in his stomach. He had left without looking back. At the time, it had felt necessary, inevitable. The underworld had demanded his full allegiance, and he had obeyed. Emily had been a weakness then. Warmth had no place in a world built on fear. He had told himself she would move on, that she deserved someone untouched by darkness. What he had not expected was how the memory of her would survive everything else. California had hardened him. Europe had sharpened him. Violence had taught him restraint, and betrayal had taught him silence. But none of it had erased her. She lingered in the quiet moments between decisions, in the rare seconds before sleep when the world went still. He had not returned for her. That was the lie he repeated as he walked. His men fanned out subtly, creating space around him. No one approached. No one dared. Christian's reputation preceded him, and even here, even now, people felt it. Danger wrapped around him like a second skin. Still, beneath the control, beneath the danger, something restless stirred. The past was close, closer than he expected. He felt it before he saw it. A tension in his spine, a pull in his chest that had nothing to do with instinct and everything to do with memory. The sense that something unfinished was waiting just beyond his line of sight. Christian slowed his steps without realizing it. This place had once been the beginning of everything. Now it felt like the edge of something else entirely. He told himself to keep moving, to stay focused, to remember who he was now. But the truth pressed in quietly, relentlessly. A man could leave a place. He could leave a woman. He could build an empire on blood and silence. But some parts of the past did not stay buried. They waited. And as Christian Hawthorne crossed the terminal, controlled and dangerous and emotionally sealed tight, the collision he had spent 3 years avoiding was already moving toward him. The moment Christian saw her, the world narrowed to a single point. The noise of the airport faded into a dull echo, as if someone had closed a door inside his head. The crowd kept moving, people laughed, phones rang, luggage rolled past, but none of it reached him anymore. Emily Monroe stood near the baggage area. Sunlight, spilling through the glass walls, touched her hair, and for one impossible second Christian believed his mind was betraying him. She was real. Not a memory, not a dream, not a ghost pulled from regret. Real and breathing, and close enough to touch. 3 years had changed her, but not in the way he had feared. Her hair was shorter now, brushing her shoulders softly. Her face carried a quiet strength he did not remember from before. The softness was still there, but it was guarded, earned, forged through survival. She looked older, not aged, but awakened, as if life had forced her to grow faster than time should allow. And she was holding a child. Christian's body reacted before thought caught up. His breath stopped, his fingers curled slowly at his sides. His men noticed the change, instantly shifting their weight, alert, sensing danger, but not understanding its shape. The child was small, maybe 2 or 3 years old, with dark curls bouncing. As she moved, she spoke rapidly in Portuguese, pointing excitedly toward the moving carousel, her voice bright, alive. Emily bent down, listening, smiling, with a tenderness that struck Christian like a blade. He had seen women smile before. He had never seen that smile directed at anyone but him. Until now. Then the child looked up, and Christian froze completely. The eyes. There was no denying it, no distance, no logic could soften the truth. Those eyes were his, the same steel gray softened by long lashes, the same shape he had seen in the mirror his entire life. Blood does not lie. The calculation hit him instantly. 3 years gone, the child's age, the months, the nights he replayed unconsciously in his mind. The past aligned with brutal precision. His chest tightened, not with fear, not with anger, but with something far more dangerous. Hope. Emily straightened suddenly, her smile vanishing. As she sensed his stare, she looked up, and the moment her eyes met his, the color drained from her face. Recognition hit her like a wave. She pulled the child closer, instinctively, her hand tightening protectively around the small fingers. Her posture changed instantly, no longer open, no longer soft, but defensive, ready. The woman he loved was gone. The mother remained. Time stretched between them, long and unbearable. Christian took a step forward, then stopped, unsure for the first time in years, unsure of his power, unsure of his place, unsure of whether he deserved to cross the space between them. This was not a negotiation. This was not a territory dispute. This was consequence. Emily's eyes searched his face, as if looking for proof that he was real, that he was not another cruel trick of memory. She found it, and her expression hardened. Pain lived there. Anger lived there. And something else, something deeper, something that scared him more than hatred ever could. Resolve. The child tugged on Emily's hand, speaking again, her voice curious, innocent, untouched by the storm gathering around her. Emily answered softly, brushing the girl's hair, her voice steady, but strained. Christian felt something inside him crack open. This child did not know him. She did not fear him. She did not know that the man watching her from across the terminal ruled through blood and silence. She only knew her mother. And somehow, that hurt more than anything he had ever lost. His men waited for instruction, unaware that their boss, the man who had faced down enemies without blinking, was fighting to breathe. The past had found him. Not with a gun. Not with a threat. But with a child who carried his eyes, and a woman who carried his heart, and neither of them belonged to him anymore. Or so it seemed. Christian took another step forward. This time he did not stop. Whatever waited on the other side of this moment, he would face it. Because some collisions cannot be avoided, and some truths refuse to stay buried. Christian crossed the terminal with the calm precision that had once terrified entire rooms, but inside him, everything was splintering. Each step toward Emily felt heavier than the last, as if the air itself resisted him. The child clung to her leg, now watching him openly, curiosity bright in her face. No fear, no recognition, only interest. That innocence was what hurt most. Emily did not move when he stopped in front of her. She lifted her chin slightly, not in greeting, but in warning. Her body angled subtly, placing herself between Christian and the child like a shield. He noticed everything, the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers tightened around the small hand, the way her breathing changed. She was ready to protect at any cost. Christian had commanded armies, had ended wars with a single sentence, yet now he stood silent, his power meaningless in the face of her stare. 3 years collapsed into a single heartbeat. Emily spoke his name, softly, not with warmth, not with anger, but with something fractured, something unfinished. Christian. The sound of it hit him harder than any blade. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Words failed him for the first time in a very long time. There was nothing he could say that would not sound like an excuse, nothing that could bridge the distance that had grown between them. The child shifted closer to Emily, peering up at him, with wide eyes so like his own that his chest tightened again. She studied him, seriously, head tilted, as if trying to solve a puzzle. Emily felt it too. He could see the moment she noticed the resemblance. Her jaw tightened, her gaze flicked briefly to the child, then back to him, sharp and guarded. "You should not be here," Emily said quietly, her voice steady, but low. "I came for business," Christian replied, the truth and the lie intertwined. Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Business," she repeated, as if tasting the word and finding it bitter. The child tugged again on Emily's hand, speaking rapidly in Portuguese, pointing behind Christian at something unseen. Emily nodded distractedly, responding automatically, her eyes never leaving his. Christian crouched slowly, without thinking, lowering himself to the child's level. His men stiffened behind him, but he ignored them. The girl looked at him more closely, now her gaze serious, thoughtful. "Hello, little one," he said softly, keeping his voice gentle, controlled. The child blinked, then smiled shyly, hiding half her face against Emily's leg, before peeking out again. Emily's breath caught. She did not tell him to stop, but her hand tightened protectively on the child. "She is shy with strangers," Emily said flatly. "Understandable," Christian replied, his voice barely above the noise of the terminal. The child reached up, holding 2 fingers, then, after a pause, added another, proud of herself. "Almost 3, she announced clearly. Christian's heart stuttered. Almost 3. The final piece slid into place with devastating clarity. Emily straightened fully, now her expression hardening. She reached down, lifting the child into her arms, ending the moment decisively. "We are leaving," she said firmly. "Wait," Christian said, the word escaping before he could stop himself. She turned sharply, eyes flashing. "Do not," she warned, "do not follow us. Do not speak to her. You lost that right when you walked away." Christian rose slowly, his face unreadable, but his voice cracked just slightly. "I did not know." Emily laughed softly, without humor. "You always say that," she replied, then stepped back, creating distance again. The child rested her head on Emily's shoulder, watching him silently, eyes still curious, still familiar. For one unbearable second, Christian felt something close to panic, the kind no bullet could stop. He had returned to reclaim territory, to assert dominance, to remind the underworld who still ruled. Instead, he stood stripped of power, facing the one truth that could destroy him. He had left behind more than a woman. He had left behind his blood. Emily turned away, carrying the child, toward the exit, never looking back. Christian did not move. He simply watched as the past walked out of his reach, and the future followed in her arms. And for the first time since becoming a mafia boss, Christian Hawthorne felt fear, not of death, not of betrayal, but of losing something that mattered more than power ever had. Christian did not follow them out of the airport. He stood still long after Emily disappeared into the crowd. His men waited uncertain, watching him for command. None came. The silence inside him was heavier than gunfire. He had ruled cities, ended lives, broken enemies, but he had never been unmade like this. The child had his eyes. There was no escaping that truth. No strategy that could erase it. No lie that could bury it. He turned slowly, walking away from the terminal windows. Each step felt like leaving something behind again. Only this time it was not a choice. Outside, the airport heat pressed down hard and real. Cars waited, engines running. His driver opened the door without speaking. Christian sat back, staring at nothing. The city moved past the tinted glass, familiar and distant at once. 3 years ago, he had left Brazil, believing distance would dull everything. That power would replace feeling. That silence would erase memory. It had not. Emily had looked at him like a stranger. Worse, like a threat. Not with love, not with longing, but with steel resolve. She had built a life without him. A wall he could not break with force. Back at the safe house, his men reported updates. Territories stable. Rivals quiet. Meetings scheduled. Christian listened without hearing. The syndicate expected a king. But the man who returned carried something else now. A fracture. A vulnerability. A child-shaped absence where certainty once lived. That night, he stood alone on the balcony, overlooking the city. Lights stretched endlessly beneath him. This was his territory. His world. Yet it felt smaller than it ever had. Memories surfaced uninvited. Emily laughing barefoot in the kitchen. Her hands warm against his chest. The way she used to look at him, not afraid, not impressed, just certain. She had trusted him. And he had left. His phone buzzed with messages from lieutenants. From men who feared disappointing him. From men who would kill on command. He ignored them all. Instead, his mind replayed the moment Emily pulled the child closer. The instinctive protection. The fear he had put there. That child had grown without him. Taken her first steps. Spoken her first words. Fallen asleep at night without knowing his name. The realization hollowed him out. Near dawn, his right-hand man approached cautiously. Asking when the meetings would resume. Asking how aggressive the expansion should be. Christian finally spoke. His voice calm but altered. Delay everything. The man hesitated. Territory waits for no one. Christian turned slowly, his eyes cold again, but different now. Territory can wait. Blood cannot. The man nodded, backing away. Alone again, Christian exhaled deeply. For the first time since becoming a mafia boss, his power felt secondary. The past had not come to haunt him. It had come to claim him. And somewhere in this city, a woman he loved was raising a child that carried his blood. A child who did not know him. A child who might never forgive him. Christian Hawthorne had faced death without blinking. But now, as dawn broke over Brazil, he understood the truth. The hardest battles are never fought with weapons. They are fought with regret. And this one had only just begun. Night wrapped the city in silence, but Christian did not sleep. He stood by the window, watching lights flicker below like distant fires. This city once obeyed him. Now it felt like a witness. His mind replayed the airport again and again. Emily pulling the child close. The way her body shifted without thought. A mother protecting what mattered most. He poured a drink but did not touch it. Power had trained him to endure hunger, pain, and fear. It had not trained him to endure this. Before dawn, he made the call. Not to a lieutenant. Not to a fixer. But to the one man who knew everything. Marcos. His eyes and ears in Brazil. The man who cleaned problems before they became wars. Find her, Christian said quietly. Not to hurt. Not to scare. Just to know. Marcos did not ask questions. He never did. Hours passed. Meetings were postponed. Territory discussions delayed. Rumors stirred as word spread that the boss was silent. By evening, Marcos returned. His face grave. She lives in Vila Matalna. Modest apartment. No guards. No money from us. Christian's jaw tightened. Continue. The child, Marcos said carefully. Girl. 2 years old. Name Sophie. The name struck deep. Soft. Beautiful. Not his. She works, Marcos continued. Translator. Freelance. She refused help when it was offered. Offered by who, Christian asked. Marcos hesitated. By Vincent. The name fell heavy in the room. Christian turned slowly. The air changed instantly. Vincent had been more than a lieutenant. He had been family. Brother in blood and war. And he had been here. In Brazil. When Christian left. Say it, Christian said. Marcos swallowed. Vincent ordered the block. Calls. Emails. Everything. He told her you chose the syndicate. That you were engaged. That she was a weakness. Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. Christian felt something inside him snap. Not Ray. Not yet. But clarity. While he had been building power, someone else had been shaping lies. While he believed Emily abandoned him, she had been fighting alone. Pregnant. Afraid. Cut off. Christian closed his eyes. The image burned. Emily standing alone with a child in her arms, believing he had chosen power over blood. When he opened them, his expression was empty. That frightened Marcos more than anger. Did she ever try again, Christian asked. Every month, Marcos said softly. Until she stopped. Because she believed she meant nothing. The words landed like a verdict. Christian turned back to the window. The city no longer looked like territory. It looked like a test. Vincent wanted a king without attachments. A weapon. A ruler without weakness. Instead, he had created something else. A reckoning. Christian spoke finally, his voice low and controlled. Prepare the car. Marcos nodded. Where are we going? Christian answered without turning. To face what I left behind. And this time, I am not walking away. Villa Madalna slept quietly under the soft glow of streetlights. The neighborhood felt smaller than Christian remembered narrower streets, lower buildings' lives, stacked close together without walls or guards. He stepped out of the car alone, leaving his men behind for the first time since his return. This was not a place for fear. This was a place for truth. The building was modest, paint-worn balconies, crowded with plants and laundry. Nothing about it spoke of power. Everything about it spoke of survival. Christian stood across the street, watching a single window on the third floor. Light flickered inside. Movement passed behind thin curtains. She was there. His heart slowed the way it did before a war. Controlled, steady, prepared. A door opened below. A neighbor passed. No one recognized him. Here he was, just a man in a dark coat, with too much silence around him. Time stretched. Then the door upstairs opened. Emily stepped onto the balcony. She leaned against the railing, breathing in the night air. For a moment she looked tired. Not weak. Just human. Christian felt something tighten in his chest. This was the woman who had carried his child alone. Who had built a life without protection. Without money. Without him. A small figure appeared behind her. Sophie. The child padded out barefoot, rubbing her eyes. Emily lifted her, without effort, settling her on her hip. The movement was instinctive, practiced. Sophie rested her head against Emily's shoulder. Safe. Content. Christian did not realize he was holding his breath until his lungs burned. He took one step forward, then stopped. This was not his world. Not yet. A voice cut through the quiet. You can come out now. Christian froze. Emily was looking straight at him. Eyes sharp. Unafraid. She had always known when he was near. He stepped into the light, slowly raising his hands, slightly not in surrender, but in respect. I am not here to take anything, he said. Emily's expression did not soften. You already did. The words landed hard. Sophie shifted, looking down at him again. studying him with that same serious curiosity. "Who is he?" she asked softly. Emily hesitated just a second too long. Christian spoke before she could. "Someone who made mistakes." Emily shot him a warning look. Christian met it without flinching. "I did not know about her. But I know now." Silence stretched. A siren sounded far away. Emily adjusted Sophie on her hip. "You know nothing, Christian. You left. You disappeared. I buried you." Christian nodded. "I was buried too. By lies." Her eyes narrowed. "Lies do not change absence." "No, but they explain it." Sophie leaned forward suddenly, looking at him closely. "You have eyes like mine," she said. The words shattered what little distance remained. Emily's grip tightened. "Do not say things like that." But it was already said. Christian swallowed. "I am not here to scare her." "Are you?" "I am here because she deserves to know I tried." "Tried too late," Emily said. "Maybe. But I am not leaving again." The wind stirred. Plants rustled. Somewhere a dog barked. Emily studied him, searching for deception. She found none. Sophie rested her head again. "Sleepy." Emily turned, slightly shielding her. "You have 5 minutes." Christian's heart pounded. 5 minutes was more mercy than he deserved, and more hope than he had allowed himself to feel. The 5 minutes passed without anyone counting them. Time bent the way it always did when something fragile stood on the edge of breaking. Emily did not invite him inside. She did not step away either. She stood there holding Sophie, as if the night itself might try to steal her. Christian kept his distance. Every instinct he had learned in blood told him to take control, to dominate the space, to speak with authority. He ignored those instincts. This was not a room he could conquer. "You should not have come," Emily said quietly. "They will follow you eventually." "I know," Christian replied. "That is why I came alone." That answer unsettled her more than any threat could have. Sophie stirred again, blinking sleep from her eyes. She reached out, touching the edge of Christian's coat with small, careful fingers. The contact was light, but it felt like a strike to his chest. "You are cold," she said, matter of fact. Christian knelt, slowly bringing himself level with her. The floor was hard. He welcomed it. "I am used to it," he said. Emily watched, closely, ready to pull Sophie back at the first wrong word. Christian looked at the child. Really looked. Not as proof. Not as bloodline. But as a person. "What do you like?" he asked gently. Sophie thought hard, drawing circles in the air with her finger. "Stories. And strawberries. And the purple elephant." Emily frowned. "Purple elephant." Imaginary friend, Christian guessed. Sophie nodded seriously. "He is very brave." "So are you," Christian said without hesitation. The words slipped out raw and unfiltered. Emily's breath caught despite herself. Inside the apartment, a phone rang. Emily ignored it. "You have enemies," Emily said. "They do not forgive attachments." "Neither do children," Christian replied. He stood, then straightening slowly. Emily felt at the shift, the weight of the man he truly was. "They will come," he continued. "They always do. And when they do, they will not see you as innocent. They will see you as Leverett." Her eyes hardened. "Do not threaten me. I am warning you." A car passed below headlights, briefly illuminating the street. Christian's men remained unseen but alert. Emily turned away finally, unlocking the balcony door. She stepped inside without inviting him, then paused. "You can stand there," she said. "But you do not step inside." Christian accepted it without argument. From inside, voices drifted from a television. Normal life. A world untouched by violence. Christian's phone vibrated once in his pocket. He did not check it. He already knew. Someone was testing him. Somewhere in the city, A meeting was being held without his permission. Names were being spoken. Doubts whispered. The syndicate was restless. Emily turned back. They will not stop, will they? No, Christian said. But I will. Her eyes searched his face. What does that mean? It means I will make sure no one ever comes near her. Even if that means dismantling everything I built. Sophie looked between them, sensing tension. Hugging Emily's neck tighter. Christian softened instantly. You should sleep, he said. Both of you. Emily studied him again. Then nodded once. Tomorrow, she said. We talk tomorrow. I will be here. Do not bring your men. I will not. She closed the door slowly. Christian remained on the balcony until the light inside dimmed. Until silence settled. Then he stepped back into the street. His phone buzzed again. This time he answered. The voice on the other end was tense. Boss, there is movement. Vincent is calling meetings without you. Christian's gaze lifted to the third-floor window, now dark. Tell Vincent to wait, he said calmly. What if he does not? Then Christian replied. He will learn what happens when loyalty breaks. The line went dead. Christian looked once more at the building. At the place where his past and future now lived. The war had begun. And this time, it was not for power. It was for blood. Morning came without peace. Christian stood on the rooftop of the safe house, watching the city wake. Vendors rolled carts into place. Cars filled the streets. Life moved forward, unaware of the storm gathering beneath it. His phone vibrated nonstop. Messages from captains. From enforcers. From men who sensed weakness. He ignored them. Instead, his mind stayed, fixed on a small apartment in Villa Madalena. On a woman who slept lightly now. On a child who trusted easily. By mid-morning, the confirmation arrived. Vincent had crossed the line. A private meeting had been called without permission. Territory leaders summoned. Decision discussed. Power tested. This was not ambition. This was a coup. Christian felt no surprise. Only a cold clarity. Vincent had always believed fear was the only currency. Attachments were liabilities. Love was weakness. Christian had once believed him. No longer. He arrived at the warehouse alone. A deliberate choice. A message in itself. The men inside fell silent when he entered. No one spoke. No one sat. Vincent stood at the center. Confident. Smiling. You finally remembered who you are, Vincent said. Christian removed his coat, slowly placing it over a chair. I never forgot. Vincent gestured around the room. This empire needs certainty. You are distracted. You brought your past back into our world. Christian stepped closer. And you built lies to keep me obedient. Vincent laughed. I protected what we built. You destroyed it, Christian replied. The room tightened. Hands hovered near weapons. Christian lifted his gaze. Every man froze. He did not raise his voice. He never needed to. You blocked her calls. You isolated her. You let my child grow without a father. Vincent shrugged. Necessary sacrifices. That word sealed his fate. Christian leaned in close enough for only Vincent to hear. There is nothing necessary about cruelty. He straightened, addressing the room. Anyone who stands with Vincent walks out now. No one moved. Fear shifted. Loyalty realigned. Vincent paled. You would burn everything for a woman and a child. No, Christian said calmly. I will burn everything for truth. He turned away. Vincent was already finished. Outside, the warehouse sirens wailed. Controlled. Expected. Christian had already dismantled the structure from within. Accounts frozen. Territory reassigned. Orders rewritten. By afternoon, Vincent no longer existed in the syndicate. By evening, Christian stood once again on the street below Emily's building. This time he did not hide. Emily opened the door before he knocked. She saw it immediately. Something had changed. "It is done," he said simply. She searched his face. "What did you do?" "I ended it." "Ended what?" "The version of me that could abandon you." Silence filled the space. Sophie peeked from behind Emily, holding her purple elephant. Christian knelt. "I am still dangerous," he said softly. "But not to you. Never to you." Emily's voice shook. "You chose us." Christian nodded. Completely. For the first time, she did not step back. The empire had fallen quietly, and something far more fragile had been given room to live. The night felt heavier than the others. Not because of danger, but because of truth waiting to be spoken. Emily did not invite Christian to sit. She stood near the window arms, folded Sophie asleep in the other room. The apartment was quiet in the way homes become when children finally rest. "You changed things today," Emily said softly. Christian nodded. "I had to." "No," she replied. "You chose to." He accepted that. For a long moment, neither spoke. The city hummed outside, distant, alive, indifferent. "There is something you still do not know," Emily said finally. "Something I never planned to tell you." Christian felt the shift instantly. His body stilled. His instincts sharpened. "Tell me." "When you left," she began, "I was not just alone. I was afraid." He did not interrupt. "Vincent did not only block my calls," she continued. "He came to see me." Christian's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. "He told me that if I tried to reach you again, if I showed up, if I caused trouble, something would happen. To me. To the baby." Her voice wavered for the first time. "He said your world had no place for weakness. That accidents happen to women who do not listen." Christian felt ice spread through his chest. "I believed him," Emily whispered, "because I had seen that world. I had seen what men like you were capable of." He closed his eyes briefly. "Not in denial. In shame. So I disappeared. Changed numbers. Moved apartments. Lived quietly. Raised her alone." She looked at him, then eyes wet but steady. "I did not leave you, Christian. I survived you." The words cut deeper than anything before. Christian dropped to one knee, not in dominance, not in control, but because his legs would no longer hold him. "I am so sorry," he said. "For everything." Emily exhaled, shaking. "I never wanted revenge. I just wanted peace." Sophie stirred in the other room, murmuring something about the elephant. Emily softened instantly. "That is why I never told you. I did not want her world poisoned by fear." Christian looked toward the small bedroom door. A child sleeping safely, because her mother had fought quietly every day. "Vincent will never come near you again," Christian said. "I swear it." "It is already too late for promises," Emily replied. "Then let me give you proof." He stood slowly. "I am leaving the syndicate entirely." Her breath caught. "What?" "I am dismantling it here. Selling what cannot be destroyed. Walking away from what remains." Emily stared at him. "That life does not let go easily." "I know. But I am done choosing power over people." Silence filled the room, thick and fragile. After everything she said. "Why now?" Christian answered without hesitation. "Because when I saw her, I understood that if I stayed the man I was, I would destroy her future, even if I loved her." He met Emily's eyes. "I would rather be nothing than be the reason my child grows up afraid." Emily felt something inside her finally loosen. For the first time in 3 years, she believed him. The past had not only been betrayal and pain, it had been a test. And tonight, Christian Hawthorne chose differently. Morning arrived quietly, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Sunlight slipped through thin curtains, touching the walls of the small apartment where Christian sat awake long before anyone else stirred. He had not slept, not from fear, but from certainty. The life he had ruled was already collapsing behind him. Messages had come through the night confirming it. Territories dissolved. Orders rescinded. Names erased. A kingdom does not fall with noise when it is abandoned by its king. It simply stops existing. Emily emerged from the bedroom, slowly, her face tired but calm. There was no anger left in her posture, only guarded hope. Sophie followed, rubbing her eyes, dragging the purple elephant behind her. She looked at Christian, as if he had always been there. "Are you still here?" she asked. Always, he replied without hesitation. She accepted that answer, easily climbing onto a chair, reaching for breakfast. Children knew truth better than adults. Emily watched the exchange quietly. Then she spoke. "If you stay," she said, "there is no going back." "I am not looking back," Christian answered. They ate together in silence. Not awkward. Not strained. Just careful. After breakfast, Christian stood. "Today I will disappear," she said. Emily's breath caught. "From that world," he clarified. "From anyone who could touch you. There will be no shadow following us." She studied his face, searching for doubt, finding none. "What about her name?" Emily asked finally. "Her last name." Christian looked at Sophie, then back at Emily. "She keeps yours, until she chooses otherwise." Something in Emily's chest broke open then. Hours later, Christian stood at the edge of the city, overlooking everything he once controlled. Documents signed, phones discarded, names severed. He was no longer a boss, no longer a ruler, just a man choosing differently. That evening, they walked together through the neighborhood. No guards, no distance. Sophie ran ahead, laughing, pointing at stray cats. Emily walked beside Christian, close, but not touching yet. She stopped suddenly, turning to him. "You understand," she said. "This does not erase the past. I would never ask it to. And trust will take time. I have nothing but time now." She studied him, then nodded once. The final test came without warning. A car slowed nearby, engine idling too long. Christian moved, instinctively placing himself between Emily and Sophie. Not aggressive, protective. The car drove on. Emily saw it, saw him, saw the difference. That night, as Sophie slept, Emily spoke quietly. "Stay." Christian did not move, did not rush. He simply answered, "I am home." Weeks passed, then months. The story spread quietly in the underworld. The boss who walked away. The king who chose blood over fear. No one came looking. Because nothing is more dangerous than a man with nothing left to lose and everything left to protect. The final reveal came not with violence but with peace. Christian Hawthorne had not returned to Brazil to reclaim power. He had returned to end it. And in doing so, he gained something far greater. A child who trusted him. A woman who chose him again. And a life that did not require silence to survive.